Okay, so I am a filmmaker, an educator, and a video marketing consultant. So let's grab this remote. And I just wanted to double check. So out of everyone here, who is a photographer at the moment? Okay, that's good. And who is a videographer or video? Cool, that's good, that helps. And any other skill sets like graphic design or anything like that? No, that's good. This helps me a lot. All right, so I can cater the presentation towards that. Okay, good. All right, so most of the people are photographers. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a little bit of my work over the past few years. So this is my show reel from 2015. Cool. So I realize it's 2017 now, so that was 2015. So the new show reel is currently in production, and I've done quite a lot since that one was released. So my skill set is I like to make people feel. So I will give you a little bit of a background. So this presentation is going to show the history of how I've gotten to where I am, because all of those videos that you saw, from start to finish, I did everything. So I'm a graphic designer, photographer, video editor. I did the lighting and everything like that, and Steadicam operation, and all the way up to the marketing side of it. I'm doing a lot of these kind of projects now. I'm very grateful, and even where I am right now, all of the education and the workshops I'm doing is part of my dream. So you guys are part of it right now, being able to teach. Okay, so 10 years ago. From 2007 to 2011, I was in university doing graphic design. And so I wanted to be the best graphic designer possible. And I pushed really hard to learn typography, web design, photography. I kept going, even though all the teachers kind of said, you need to kind of chill out and just focus on one thing. I kind of ignored them, and I did it anyway. And then I didn't know photography, so that was my biggest weakness from first year because everyone was starting to learn photo. And I think back in 2007, things were different back then because photography was a little bit, it was not as accessible. So we had to rent like the cameras from our uni, so the prices are so much different now. So it's a lot easier to do photography now. But I remember I used to watch the best students and I was like, I want that in my brain. So I kept pushing, but then the teachers were telling me that you can either be a jack of all trades or a master of none. And then, so it's very binary. People say you're either one or the other. But I feel there's one in between somewhere where you can be quite good at a lot of things. And so to be a master of something, you have to spend at least 10,000 hours on something. So I broke it up into 2,000 and made it like 5. Okay, so I'm going to quickly run you through the top 5 lessons I learned from uni. So if any of you guys are planning or if you're currently in it, let's fast forward that and I'll give you what I learned. So I am not immortal and all-nighters are not sustainable. So I was doing a lot of all-nighters and stuff like that to really push, and I was on the internet a lot and I was always looking outwardly towards Switzerland and different types of design all over the world. So yeah, it got pretty hard, but I felt like I learnt the limitations of my human body and how hard you can push it. All right, so I learnt that my best learning type is kinesthetic. So there's different types of learning types. There's kinesthetic, auditory, and visual. And so my strengths are like doing things with my hands and visual. So I have a photographic memory, so I can look at things and I can remember composition and stuff like that. So that's a very good skill to have when you're doing photography. Okay, and number 3. Don't always look to your immediate environment for competition. So this is one of the biggest things that I learned from uni because I was always on the internet looking elsewhere, except for like excluding all the proximity of all the people around me. And I think that's kind of where I stuck out because I was never looking at what my classmates were doing. All right, and then your network is your net worth. So I learned that in uni, but over time, the lessons started getting stronger and I realized that I was stuck too much in the graphic design kind of industry and I wanted to stretch it out a bit. And then the last one is, you're an average of the 5 people you hang around with most. And so these are all like quotes that you hear in your life and you're like, yeah, don't tell me what to do kind of thing. But I actually see that the value of the 5 people you hang around with most, it's like the mindsets. They shift over to you, like both financially and all the kind of knowledge and things that you talk about, all the views, they transfer over to you. So I started hanging around with more of the people in my uni who were really killing it. So they were doing the best and I was like, hey, can I hang out a bit? And then that's what fast forwarded me so much through photography. And then right after that finished, I went to weddings. So I'll give you the fast-forwarded version of what I learned in weddings. So I worked for a company that we focused on same-day edits. So we handled pressure and we got things done first time. So everything that I learned from that, I'll kind of give you that skill set as well so you can do that for a little bit of both your photography and also your video. So yeah, with the same-day edits, they were pretty full-on. We would film, and then we'd put all of the video content together while we were traveling back and forth, and then we would edit in the car, and then we would play a video at the reception. So it was a 3 to 5 minute video with music, and even at the reception, we would do the first dance and stuff like that, and then I would run with the SD card and we'll put it in, and then the video would have the first dance that happened 20 minutes ago. And everyone's like, what? That was just then. And then the best thing about that was when you play it and everyone's like crying at the end, I'm just standing there with the camera, I'm like, it's nothing. Yeah, so that was my favorite part about doing that. It was very rewarding. Okay, so one of the best things that I learned from that was you have to film for the timeline, I guess. So a lot of these things, these are concepts that I'm going to bring over, and you can ask any questions towards the end. But this is what I learned. So you have to film everything that you're going to use and not kind of just reactively catch what's happening. You have to look into the future and kind of grab those moments. So I optimized my time a lot. So every time I was kind of filming something, I would be looking at what's the next thing that's going to be happening, so really opening your ears for attention. So anticipation and prediction, these are the biggest things that I can teach you, because like most of the topic of today is like my skills from event filmmaking. So event filmmaking is being able to catch things as they happen, but then you can translate that to weddings, and you can bring it to commercial. There's a lot of applications for it. And also in life, by being able to predict things before they happen, it's a very good skill set to have. So anticipation and prediction, during weddings I would learn to kind of measure moments and stuff like that and be able to predict. I could look in every direction, and like even right now I can see every single person in the room. And then with the anticipation thing, I would always be in the right place at the right time because I knew something was going to happen over there. So it's all about just predicting things, and I guess you get better over time with that kind of thing. And advanced awareness. So the biggest thing that I can give you from all of my event filmmaking is advanced awareness. So it's actually scanning, because the human brain, we can only focus our attention on one thing at a time, sort of thing. And so I taught my brain to jump back and forth and being able to grab moments. So by using visual cues and also listening as much as possible, I was able to start predicting things before they happen. So the flowers are coming in 5 minutes. I was like, cool. And so I'm like listening to everyone's conversations at once. And then so I knew that the flowers were coming. I was filming the bridal prep over here. And then so I knew that when the flowers come in, I have to be over there. So over time, I was kind of picturing the next 5 minutes and where I need to be, kind of thing. All right, so those are the 5 wedding lessons. Yep, that's the 5th one. Emotional intelligence. So the biggest thing that I got from filming weddings is being able to understand micro expressions in people's faces. And I got so good at being able to predict that I could look around the room and I can tell who's going to cry in what order. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to give 3 seconds for over there and over there. Ooh, no, they're not crying yet. They will though. And then so you kind of see their lips trembling and stuff like that. So emotional intelligence is being able to feel how other people are feeling. So I have very high empathy. So all of the things that I learned from weddings, I slowly transferred it over into all of the new commercial work that I'm doing as well. All right, and the bonus, glide cam. So I remember when I first saw, well, a lot of things have changed recently, but the first time I saw glide cam on film, it was just like the camera, you stick it on one of these stabilizers, and then it removes all the footsteps and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Looks so cinematic. Everyone says cinematic. But the first time I saw my boss using it, I was like, wow, he's really good. And he was like getting all these shots all at once. I'm like, I want that in my brain. And so I wrote a list of all the things I slowly wanted to get as skill sets. And I feel that now there's a whole nother list of what I'm going to be trying to get as well. All right, so I finished up filming weddings. That was at the end of 2011. And then, so one thing that happened in my life was I said to my girlfriend, hey, we only have one chance to live life. What is your dream and what is your goal? And then she said, I want to work at the makeup shows in London. Like she wants to work in the fashion shows in London doing the makeup. And I said, well, if you stay in Sydney, I don't think you're really going to get there. So I was like, all right, well, I didn't want to be the boyfriend who kind of held her back. So I said, you go there and you do that. So she did that. She stayed there for 2 years. And so we stayed together. And so she was in London, I was in Sydney. And then I finished filming weddings, which was my only form of income. So I was like, did I just ruin my life? No money, and my girlfriend's overseas. I was like, all right, well, let's see what we can do with that. So I started doing food film in 2015, and I'll show you a few examples of that. So a lot of my background with doing photography really helps, like all of your composition knowledge, all of your lighting and stuff like that. And so I mixed a little bit of my other background. I'm a violinist and I sing and I beatbox. So I learned a lot of my other skill sets. So by getting to the editing and combining my photography and graphic design and music knowledge, you have more power in the edit to make people feel more. So I think the next video is, yep, no, this is commercial. Okay, cool. So with 2015, I started to do commercial as well. So I started tapping into the food industry, but then I did that because I didn't want to go back into weddings. I'm like, how can I not do weddings but use the same skill set that I gathered? So I started doing a little bit of commercial. And then this is one of my favorite projects. We filmed it actually down here. So it's actually 2 years ago since I did this one. And so for this shoot, we were in the car and I opened up, this is for the deaf and hard of hearing functionality in Uber. And so when we were in the car, I was picked up and I opened my phone and I learnt a bit of Auslan. So when I was directing, I wouldn't just lip read, I actually directed with Auslan. So this is the result. There is no sound, just in case. Kind of cool that I'm showing that here, because it was down here. Okay. And then this is what I shot, I think, last year with Uber. So I've been working with Uber for the past 4 years now.
We all know how good ice cream is. This Friday, the 15th of July, Uber is delivering Uber ice cream on demand across Australia. This year, 3 of Australia's favourite chefs have created 3 exclusive flavours, only available when you request Uber ice cream through the Uber app. The best part is, you'll be getting ice cream for good. Each tub of ice cream equals 5 meals for OzHarvest to deliver to Australians in need. This Friday, request ice cream, share ice cream, eat ice cream for good. Uber and OzHarvest, ice cream on demand.
My thumb was in it. I put my thumb in one of those shots. Okay. And so for 2016, I was like, what am I doing now? Because I did a few jobs for food and I did a little bit of some of the commercial stuff. But because I finished up with weddings, I was kind of in this limbo area where I was like, well, I've got all these skills now, but what am I going to do with it? So I decided to travel. So what happened was, let's see, the next one. Yeah, so I realized that my girlfriend was overseas. I'm like, let's use some of my savings and let's figure out who I am. Let's go to London. And so I used my life savings, and then my friend said to me, for an extra amount of money, you can go to Hong Kong, London, New York, and LA. And then you can come back to Sydney. I was like, well, I don't have a job anymore, so let's do it. And so, yeah, this is the first video. So I filmed that in, I think, it was in 2 sections. So the instrumentalist, she was playing when I first checked into that hotel. She was only there for about 5-10 minutes. So I filmed that. It was kind of weird because I was like just fully using a full-blown camera. And then the next day they said there was a lion dance. I was like, yeah, I can film that. So I came past just as it was happening, but what I did was I put all of the editing into the timeline, and so I was ready to drop the dragon dance in between her playing, and then within 2 to 3 minutes of the lions jumping down, it was on Instagram. And so the social media person opened up and the video played, and she's like, who did that? And I was standing right next to her. I was like, oh, hey. And so a lot of opportunities have opened by me just doing same-day edit kind of things and doing it for Instagram and posting very quickly. Yeah. So I was traveling with my girlfriend to Dubai, and I did this one just with, this is just a travel video. So I was just using just the camera and the glide cam as well. And I was just using the camera by itself and just stuck it on the glass. Yeah. I had to get to a point where I was not ruining the holiday by filming the whole time, so I figured out a nice balance now. But I didn't have that before. I was just filming everything all the time, and everyone's like, you're not like actually here mentally. Okay. And then so what happened was I traveled through Hong Kong, and I had no plan, and I just went to whatever hotel I felt like. I opened the hotels.com app, and I was like, let's do 5-star, this is my holiday. And then the first one was $1,500 a night. I'm like, ooh, let's do not 5-star. Well, I kept it at 5-star, but I went to the bottom. And so for 7 weeks, I changed to a new hotel every day. And I just filmed just for fun. And then I built relationships with all of the places I was staying in. And so this is one of my favorite ones. I did this in Ritz-Carlton, and this was shot in 5 minutes. So I will show you this one. So as he was filming it, as he was doing it, I just caught everything straight away. So after that video, I sat by the window for the next 3 or 4 hours, just like, this is pretty cool. And then they just kept giving me extra drinks and stuff like that to film. So I was very lucky that day. Cool. So this is in the highest bar in the world, in the highest hotel on Earth. Okay, and then these are just some new videos that I did for Uber Eats. And what I wanted to do was I wanted the shots to feel like it was a drum kit, or it was like the shots are interacting with the music. So these are square because they're designed for Instagram. So a lot of the social media kind of stuff is changing the way I have to produce video. That's one, and then this is another one. Yeah. So my dream, I really loved using the GH4. A lot of the stuff that you saw in all of those previous ones, all the showreel and stuff, I was previously using the GH4 because my friend was selling it, and I was like, well, I think I want to upgrade, I want to start shooting 4K and using the slow motion. So I used the GH4, and then my friend in Brisbane was selling his set of them, so he had 4. And so I was like, well, how many, are you selling them all? And so I bought them, and I ended up having 5 GH4s. And so it was very good for interviews, but it was a bit overkill at times. And so I really wanted to show Panasonic what I could do with the GH4, so I started sending all of this kind of stuff. And I knew the GH5 was coming out soon. So I kept on pushing, and then I wanted to film something with it when it launched, potentially. And so the problems were, I didn't exist on the internet, and no one knew what I did, and I had no connections, which is the problem I said earlier about not really having, I was too into graphic design and stuff like that, so I didn't know anyone. And so the solution was, I reached out, and I did some videos, so there were Instagram meets and stuff like that, and I did a couple of them for free. And then you under-promise and over-deliver. So this led to, I filmed in Laos for the launch of the GH5 with Panasonic. So I will show you this video, get a bit of audio for this one. Yeah, here we go.
I came to photography through Instagram. The things that I like to take photographs of is quite diverse. Panasonic reached out to me and asked whether I would be willing to go along with a team of photographers to Laos to work with a program there called My Library, and they asked whether I'd be part of the program to teach the students there.
The library's been here for 14 years. I started it because I saw a lot of kids here trying to learn without access to anything. English classes were being taught on a blackboard. Teachers had their notebooks from when they studied, and there were no real books. It started as a project to help kids who were studying English, but immediately we had kids who weren't interested in English, but they just wanted to know more about the world. Many of our students come from very poor families, from dirt floor bamboo houses. And so I turned it into a great experiment in how to give people access to whatever they need to figure out who they are, what they want to do with their life, and create a better future.
Carol's got all this camera gear, different brands, different lenses, some of it's old, some of it's new, and it's hard for her students to actually learn about photography when the gear's changing the whole time. What would help her the best is to have a whole bunch of cameras that are the same, that she can simply take a lens from one, put it onto another, and just keep going. And so I had an idea as to how we might be able to bring a bunch of cameras to her, and also help to teach them how to use the gear and spend some time with her students.
I found photography to be important for a couple of reasons. All the photos published on Luang Prabang originally were made by foreigners. And so I thought it was important for Lao people to be able to tell their own stories in their own way. Ewan brought a team of photographers, 2 photographers and a videographer over to do some workshops to work with our young Lao photographers.
Carol chose 4 of her best students. When I met the students, we did a little presentation and everyone got up and shared a little bit about their work and their ideas as to how they approach photography. When we planned what we would do in this week, I was trying to find things that would inspire people and give them opportunity to express the craft and to practice.
4 students will have benefited in many different ways. One way is with their own personal skills on the camera. Those they'll be able to share in teaching with the other students. I think working with foreign photographers who are much more active in their style will also be a big influence on how they shoot in the future. I think it will give them permission to shoot in a more creative way.
One of the things I try and do is look for the spark in their eyes and to see that they're actually interested in what they're doing. And I think that was something that I was able to contribute to their learning this week and to add value to the team.
Ewan was able to accomplish above and beyond what I ever expected. Lumix donated several camera sets with matching lenses. Part of what my project is about is believing that everybody deserves an opportunity to improve themselves and their lives and their community, and good tools are a part of that opportunity, so I'm extremely grateful that the tools will not hold them back. My biggest dream for the library is the youth are able to find their passions and their dreams and develop them. Many times the kids don't know what they're interested in. And when they start to interact in an area that is natural for them, be it photography or math, it's like watching a hungry kid eat. They just can't get enough of the opportunity that they've never had.
The most powerful part of this trip actually was nothing to do with the photography for me. It was actually seeing how important education is to these students and seeing how much knowledge we take for granted coming from our schooling systems. What Carol is doing with my library is way more important than just the photography part of it. Carol actually is giving these kids hope.
For this shot, I kind of held the only GH5 over the water, over the front of the boat. I'm like, let's just hold this really tight. Because I had one of the first GH5s that were out in the open. Yeah. So that was a very good job. And I'm so excited because when I did that at the end of the whole workshop, because I was only there, I was supposed to just film, I actually started teaching the students as well. And so at the end of the whole job, I kind of took my microphones off the camera and I donated them to Carol's school as well. So now they can film video and have sound. Yeah. So I'm going to give a quick breakdown of what I did there, and then also I'm going to get potentially, I'll give out a list of websites that you can go to that will fast forward if you want to learn photography like if you're doing photography and you want to learn more about video and the transition part, I'm going to give you the secret weapons that I used that fast forwarded me like 2 years worth, and they're all free. There's a lot of good resources there. So if anyone's interested in that, I will be giving you guys that afterwards. But this is just going to break down the Laos trip, and I will kind of show you a little bit of the behind the scenes. So with this one, I was asked by Panasonic to do it, to go to Laos, but I didn't want to make another hands in the grass slow motion. Let's show off this camera video. So I wanted to be very flexible. So I told them I'd be adaptable and flexible to the storytelling, and so I made up all of that as it was happening. I was kind of just the fly on the wall, kind of helping and just doing what I could, but I was filming like the whole time. So I was there for about 5-6 days, and I just filmed everything, and I was trying to add meaning and context to all of the shots and stuff. So every time the camera was moving, I was trying to add a reason why we were making it move. And so I was thinking, how can I slowly reveal information over time? I realized this may be in front of your face. I'll just remove that for a second. Yeah, so how could I slowly reveal information? And then who were the characters? So a lot of my other work was kind of just filming cool stuff happening in slow motion, and I felt that with story you need to really, people connect with both faces in video and with other people. So I met all of the characters, I met everyone, and then I thought about who was the strongest person to kind of follow. And so that's why I interviewed Carol, and I interviewed Ewan, and Rob. So these were the characters. We did interviews, but you never saw the setups. So I always see people like having them sit down and then they talk, but I felt like I wanted it to feel like you were listening to their thoughts. So I was like, let's not have that there, and I'll just have them voice over instead. So that was an editing decision afterwards. Yeah, so wanted you to feel like you were in their thoughts, and I wanted it to feel like it was unfolding more than, rather than retelling. So I kind of broke it down into a more linear kind of thing. And so with the editing, every day I edited, so we would film, and then as we go back, I would go to my computer and I would start rough cutting everything that we shot, and I was like looking through for where I could make transitions. So there was one shot where there was an over the shoulder of someone sewing, and I was like, I'm gonna do that same shot tomorrow, but I'm gonna do it in a different place. So I was trying to go behind the wall and come out somewhere else kind of thing. So by having such a small kit, it allowed me to be very flexible in the editing process. Most people just wait and then they do it at the very end, but you miss out on so many opportunities to kind of have a stronger story. So I respected screen left and right. So on the screen, we were, I think, teaching from this side, and then the students were always on this side. And so as I've made that rule in my head ever since we started. I had Rob, and then the students were on the other side. So all the teachers were on one side, and then the students were on the other side. And then by the end of the video, they were teaching us, and then they were higher than us. So everything's all about adding very subtle concepts and meanings to the shots. Yeah. That did make it harder to shoot by adding those. And it was more fluid in making decisions based on the characters. So when I felt like something else was happening, I could easily change it because now that I edited the night before, I was very strong in my decisions. Yeah, so these are the setups that we used. Oh, it's the same thing here. And so that was the interview setup. We used, I only had one GH5 for most of the shooting, and then the other one was used for photography. So all of that was shot on just one camera as we were going. So it's a GH5, and I used the 12mm 1.4 and a 2.5. So I only did that whole thing with 2 lenses as well. So it doesn't matter what kind of, the amount of stuff you bring to a kind of shoot like this, but it's more, I made use of all of the lenses that I was provided, and it was kind of a test as well, how hectic can you go. So this is, I use the Rode video mic for audio, and then this is the glide cam. So I'll tell you something quickly about the glide cam. I've been using this for the past 5 years, and I recently went to NAB in Las Vegas, and I was lucky enough to meet the company GlideCam, and I'm the ambassador for Australia for GlideCam. And when they saw this, they're like, that is the worst one we've ever seen, because it has so much rust and it's been really beaten up. So ever since I started doing weddings, I've been using this guy. So he's getting a bit tired. So that's that one. Cool, and then I used the Rhino slider. So this is another one for all of those slider shots that I was doing. I was keeping it nice and neat to bring it. And then so these are just some of the settings that some people might want if you're from the videography side. So I was shooting the whole thing in 4K, and then for the water scenes, I was testing out what the camera can do for slow motion. And then I was doing everything manual as well. So that made it easier. And then I did a little subtle grade with LUTs. So I wanted to show what the camera can look like, just everything done pretty much in camera. So I tried to not grade too much. And then so I'm going to give you the 3 big things that I learned from camera movement. I saw this on a few blogs and stuff like that. And then so it's kind of the way I move the camera. And so this is, if you take anything from this talk, this is the biggest one I want to give you. So camera movement. There's only 3 reasons why the camera moves. And the first one is reveal. So an example of that is coming out from behind a wall, or coming out from behind someone's shoulder or something like that. So it's the slow reveal of information, like the page turning and then you see something else. So anytime the camera is moving, it can be on a stabilizer, or it can be on a dolly. You can be doing it handheld and you come out from behind the wall. So everything, that reveal is the main one. And then the second one, following. So the only reason a camera would move for following is you're coming from behind, you're walking sideways, like the Spielberg shot, where you're exactly next to them, or you're from in front. And then the third one is emphasis. So a slow dolly towards someone's emotions. So say, for example, a bride's reading, and I'm on a slider, but I know when she gets to a certain point in the card, she's gonna cry. So I was waiting, and I'm using my peripheral vision and everything like that, and I don't move the camera until she gets to that point where her throat closes up, and I'm like, all right, now. And then you start moving closer. So as she's saying something, you're emphasizing the emotion that's happening by making her larger on screen and moving closer. So if you watch any movie now, I would say that you can either do one thing, 2 things, or 3 things. So if you watch any kind of movie, every single shot, as soon as the camera starts moving, it's going to be doing 1, 2, or 3 of these things. So that when I read that, I can't remember what website I saw that on as well. I should really find out. But that has changed all of my filmmaking. Anytime you move the camera, it's one of those 3 things. Yeah, and so with the score, For this video, I worked using Facebook and Dropbox. So I was working with my friend Cassie, and she's a composer. I was using insanely bad internet, and so I used a reference track. So what we did for this one was I used this, I think my computer only had one song on it, so I used that as the background, and I edited the whole thing to that. And then I asked Cassie to make each character have their own motif or sound. So when you saw Ewan, the photographer, it had a pizzicato, plucking strings noise, and Carol was more of a xylophone noise. So I wanted every time you see them on screen through auditory means you can hear who it is. And so everyone always wants everything. I'm an example of that. My house is getting pretty insane now, so I'm trying to cut down a little bit, but I think that every project has different needs, so I start to reduce the clutter. I think I was reaching the limit of what is possible to bring on a plane today. So I didn't even bring clothes. This is all that's important to me. I always pack cameras first. And so I think the poor man pays twice. So I have gone through my fair share of buying everything 2 or 3 times. And so now I like to just get the better equipment. And so yeah, I think I've been through quite many sliders and stuff, so I enjoy using these now. And then so cut down everything you have to be as efficient for travel. That's one of the biggest things that I learned from Laos. I couldn't film with so much stuff, so with the camera movement and rules and stuff, I made sure I had a glide cam, a slider, a tripod, and then everything else was handheld. And then so I was in one of the hotels in America one time, and I woke up, I'm like, hey, it looks like that movie Up in the Air. And then I had to check out, I had to check out 2 o'clock. It was 1:30. I was like, this is the only time it's gonna look like this room. I should probably film the Up in the Air scene. And so I had half an hour to film the Up in the Air scene with George Clooney. And so I did all of this by myself with one tripod. And then at the very end, I had 2 minutes to actually pack the bags. I was like, oh, screw it. And then I just pushed it and I just sat on top. So it was nowhere near as elegant as that packing scene. But I think the best part about that was I wanted to really test what is possible in half an hour. So I'll quickly give you a breakdown of how I did that. I downloaded it off the internet, I put it in the timeline, and I cut all the shots apart. And I was like, all right, so on one layer, everything from sideways, let's put the camera there, and then everything from above, and then everything, the details and stuff. So I filmed that whole thing in half an hour, and then I had to pack and unpack the bag because it was different times and stuff. So yeah, it was quite fun. And then I think it was funny because I did the shot of me at the very end, and I was sweaty and disgusting by then. I was like, I should have done that at the start. Yeah, so 2017, I've been pushing for hotel films. And so a lot of my work now is working with 5-star luxury hotels. And I'll show you what I did in New York. So this is part of that 7-week trip. I went pretty hectic, and I changed to a new hotel every day. So that was for social media. And then this is one of the ones where I was brought back to Hong Kong. So after that big travel period, I was brought back to Hong Kong to actually do a job. I was like, oh, it's working. So this is one of my favorites. So I got to stay there for a week while we were doing all of that. Yeah. And then here is one of the others. Every time the camera's moving, something's happening. There's a reveal, a follow, emphasize. So all these are examples of projects that I shot very lean. So I was pretty much doing everything by myself. So I think with a lot of the cameras, as soon as they have the video functionality, it is very possible to make this, because I wasn't lighting any of this as well. It was just standing at the right angle, being at the right spot, and so there's a lot you can do with all the cameras that are out now. And so I was doing a lot of stuff with Uber this year as well. And then, so these are the newest ones. I actually was down in Melbourne for this one as well.
When I finished my fashion studies, I was like, I'm just gonna start making clothes. Started doing that, and then I realized it was very hard to keep a job because I need the flexibility, because every 6 months I'm traveling to India, where my production is based. I make genderless clothes. I have a small fashion label called Who the Man, and I drive Uber to support my business. A friend of mine suggested me to, drive Uber on the side, and there's so many people who are talented, who are way more creative and passionate about things, but they're just stuck in a bad position or in a bad job. So I feel I'm very lucky and very grateful.
Cool. So we have about 5 minutes left, and I was just wondering if anyone has any questions for me based on my work or anything. Yes, go for it. Yeah, so do you have a pen and paper? I will give you guys the best places where you can look for music for your videos. And I will start from the low price range, because if you're starting to do commercial work for clients, you have to be sure that you're getting the licensing done. So if we start on the low end, you can start with Audio Jungle. It's part of the Envato network. Envato was started in a garage in Melbourne as well. So Audio Jungle. Their pricing for licensing music from there starts from about $14. I sound like an infomercial. Yeah, so it starts from about $14, and you can get packs of music, sound effects, and a lot of different things. The next one up from that is Pond 5, so Pond 5. Yeah, so that's a good place to get music for your videos. Most of it is commercial as well, so you should be covered for that. And then my favorite is premiumbeat.com. Premiumbeat.com. Premium Beat. Yeah, premiumbeat.com. So that is owned by a larger company, but the quality of the music on Premium Beat is quite good as well. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack is a lot easier, but they're really good there. And they have a lot of different genres and stuff. And so Premium Beat's music is about, I think, 79 American, I think, or 49 American. And then you can license that for a lot of different commercial projects. And there's a good range of the hotel ones that I was using Premium Beat for. And then you're covered as well. And then higher from that is Music Bed, Marmoset Music. And then on the higher scale of that, I work with composers as well. So I play violin, tuba, and I'm in orchestras and stuff like that, so I can talk to different people. One of the easiest things you can do is if you know, if there's a website called SoundCloud. So there's a lot of people who are writing scores and stuff like that, but they're not yet famous. You can reach out to them and say, oh, can I use your song? And sometimes they ask you to pay, otherwise you can just tag them or stuff like that. So SoundCloud is quite nice. Yeah, SoundCloud, yeah. Yeah. So I like SoundCloud. That's where I've met a lot of my composer friends as well. So I have a composer in Italy, and they write a lot of my music. And I recently met a composer in Iceland as well. And so there's a lot of different connections you can make just by sending a message on SoundCloud and saying, hey, I'm working on this project, I like some of your music, is there a way that we can do something together? Yeah, so SoundCloud is good. Yeah, sure. You first, sorry. Yeah, sure.
Is there someone that you look up to, like a videographer that...
Yeah, someone I look up to. Okay, so when I first started doing this, there was a videographer named Michael Y. Wong, and he was from Canada. And so I was like, wow, he's using 5Ds to film all this. It's crazy. I want to know how to do that. So I reached out to him, but he lived in Canada, so I couldn't really work there. But over time, I've slowly, when I first saw Michael's work, I'll do it backwards because it's a mirror. When I first saw his work and mine, there's a gap that you need to close. Like the more you learn, the closer you get to getting your work to that same level. And so what I'm doing now is I'm trying to close the gap between what I'm seeing in TV commercials and like I'm learning to be a director as well, so directing short films and stuff like that. So this is my fun job where I can educate and I can teach, and then also I'm doing like promotional and short film, like kind of commercial stuff. But ultimately my goal is to also direct short films. So I'm looking at a lot of directors. I think Taika Waititi, you would have heard of him. He directed the new Thor, and he blows my mind because he's a director, but then previously he was a painter and a sculptor, and then he just started acting in like short New Zealand films, and then now he's the director of Thor. Where is that? That is insane. Yeah, so I think Taika Waititi is probably my favorite person at the moment, yeah. Well, he still will be, but yeah, sure. All right. Are we good to... Do you have any more? Oh, one more question? Sure.
I love the way you animate the logos and titles.
Sure, okay.
What do you use for that?
Okay, so I'm using After Effects. I will answer your one as well. Yeah, so at the moment I'm using After Effects. If you guys want to learn how to do any kind of animation, there's a website called videocopilot.com. That is the best place you can learn how to do animation because Andrew Kramer, he started that website. He's extremely funny and he will guide you through the process of animating. So videocopilot.com. And then there's also one website I would recommend, rocketstock.com. That is owned by Shutterstock, and you can get a lot of your animation and everything like that from there as well. So you can buy little animation packs, lower thirds, and all that kind of movement and stuff like that. Yeah, cool. Yes? Question?
You mentioned you had some websites that you
Yes.
inspiration from at the start just to get
Sure.
that stepping stone from
Still, yeah. Okay, so one of the main ones that I would recommend is Khan Academy. So Khan Academy. So they've got a secret, I don't know if it's a secret, but it's one of the best things that I can recommend for you guys. Pixar released a storytelling course that I did, like, I don't know how people haven't found it, but what it does is it takes you through the whole process of composition, film language, understanding like color theory and everything like that. So those are the basic foundations of film that would be really recommended for you guys. And then also, I'll give you 2 more secret weapons. Every Frame a Painting on YouTube. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels. Every Frame a Painting. It breaks down why the cameras move, shot design. It's just like there's about 20 or 30 videos on there that will really help your filmmaking like explode as well. They're about 10, 20 minutes each. Yeah. And then the last one is Lessons from the Screenplay. It was recently, it does video essays and stuff like that, and he talks about the differences between characters and stuff like that. Yeah, it's very easy to learn from those ones. And I think those 3 things. Yeah, everything is free on YouTube. Yes. Is that a different question? One more?
Is there something that you would recommend to help learn how to like, you know how you put different shots together to make in the video?
Yeah, for editing. You want to learn how to edit? Sure. Okay, let's see. Film editing. Okay, so I will give you another one afterwards. So I'll give you like a few websites where you can learn how to do the basic editing kind of things, but I'll probably break that one down for you like afterwards, just so it's easier. Yeah, sure. Cool. Oh, can I do one more, or is that? Okay, yeah, last one. Yeah, sure.
What do you use for editing? Premiere Pro, Final Cut? What program do you use for editing?
Okay, so the mindset that I got from uni was I learned the Adobe Suite, and then when I was at weddings, I learned Final Cut 7, and then I learned Premiere, and so I actually just learned as many as possible. So it doesn't matter, and I can use Mac and PC. I just learned whichever. So Premiere is my favorite because it works with Photoshop and Illustrator, but I can use Final Cut 7 and Final Cut X as well. Yeah, so it just depends on what you're using it for. Yeah, cool. All right.
Great. Well, thanks, Dave, very much for really sharing.
Thank you, everyone.